Let's talk a little about your dogs, man. Carson Beck said he's coming back for another year. I saw that, and immediately I was like, okay, whatever the odds are on Georgia winning the national title next year, that's where I'm probably leaning as we stand right here in December of 2023. How huge is that? He's coming back for another year under Mike Bobo and another year in this system with, it sounds like, a fair amount of this offensive line coming back potentially.
Yeah, offensive line back. I mean, we'll see what the receivers look like. And, we know Kirby's not afraid to hit the portal and bring in guys. He brought in 2 top receivers last season. So we'll see what he does there when it comes to that. I know they like, Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky, who's a talented freshman who, maybe not as fast as Brock, but is kind of that same mold of what you can do with him weapon-wise. So him year 2, I think he's going to be a weapon that will be utilized a little bit more. So yeah, you're talking about year 2, confidence, playing football, being the guy. And I'll be honest, like, it wasn't a quarterback competition last year. I think that was the big thing that was discussed across college football, across the Georgia fan base of who's going to take over for Stetson. It's a 3-way battle between him and Brock and Gunner. It was never really a battle. Like, it was Carson's job, but I think now knowing truly that it's his job, the fan base is behind him, the fan base is excited, and also too just confidence-wise. Like, he now knows I'm a first-round quarterback. I know that I can play at the next level. I know that I am a potential top 10 pick, if not first pick in the NFL draft. Like, that gives you confidence heading into the offseason to be an even better leader in the locker room. So I expect big things from him. I think he could have been a first-round talent this year. I think he could have been a top 20, 25 pick in the NFL draft. But, as you guys know at On 3, the amount of money that he's making off the field, and I've talked to some people about this, is kind of equivalent to what he would be making if he was a late first-round, early second-round pick. So I think a great decision for him, and he's going to set himself up for a really bright future.
I mean, that's kind of the way it feels because you look at this year's quarterback market, and it's like, all right, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels did his thing. Yeah. Like, maybe you slide into that QB3, QB4 spot. Like, Aaron, I'm looking here next year. Quinn Ewers, maybe. I mean, he could even leave this year. Shedeur Sanders. Like, I'm taking Carson Beck probably as my number 1 guy as we sit right here in December. It feels like he's probably going to be poised to be that top guy next year if he ends up having a great year.
Yeah, I think this year, I think the way Jaden played this season, I think Jaden's worked his way into top 3. I mean, hell, depending on the team, Jaden may be the number 2 quarterback. So I think he would have been more fighting for that number 4 spot with Michael Penix Jr. And still number 4 quarterback taken in the draft when you look at the NFL. That's still probably a top 15, top 20 quarterbacks. Like, you're still in a pretty good range. But you said it best, JD, like, next year when you look at the quarterbacks coming out, like, it's still a really good class. It's not like all of a sudden this class is just dropping off. Like, Quinn Ewers could be, the reigning champion, national championship quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, we know how talented he is. He's probably poised for a really good year with the rebuild that Colorado's having right now, especially the offensive line, going to an easier conference in the Big 12. You expect him to have a really good season. J.J. McCarthy, I think, comes back from Michigan. Right? That's another guy that will be in the conversation for first round. So, like, there'll be, and there's probably more guys that we're not even naming, there'll be 4 or 5 first-round guys next year. But when you talk about all the attributes, 6'4", 225, big arm, athletic enough, good decision maker, takes care of the football, and then now has 2 years of starting experience. Like, yeah, I think he'll be a top 10 guy.
Dude, and 6 tattoos. Like, if I'm a GM, I want the dude with the sick, like, tiger on the forearm. I want him throwing the ball in 4th and 3rd. Like, that's my guy.
The whole thing.
Oh,
yeah, the whole shebang.
I'm here for it. I mean, I want to get one more question for you on Carson Beck. You played under Mike Bobo. How big a deal is it to have a second year now in the system, getting more comfortable? He was already like 72% completion on his passes. He's a chance to even build on that in 2024. How massive is that to be able to have another year in the system?
Well, I know people keep saying, well, he's not going to have Brock next year. Well, he didn't have Brock for about, 4 or 5 games this season, and he played pretty dang good during those 4 or 5 games. Like, yeah, will it hurt not having Brock? And, we'll see about Ladd McConkey if he comes back or not. I believe they just got the kid from Wake Forest, Ladd McConkey 2.0. We'll see how he plugs in the thing. So this goes, just beyond Mike Bobo's system. Like, this goes to any quarterback. The more times and more reps you get in an offense, and the faster things flow. And this isn't just a one-year offense for him too. Like, this is the same offense that Todd Monken was running. Like, there was a reason why, Kirby went and got Bobo and had Bobo be the analyst. And then Bobo took over so quickly after Monken decided to go to the Baltimore Ravens. He wanted to keep everything the same. Terminology, plays, concepts, that way the team could just plug and go. And you saw that comfort with Carson. So this is not just year 2 with the system. this is what going to be year 4 or 5 for him playing in this system. Yeah, new play caller, maybe a little bit of a new twist, but definitely the same system for him. So there's a lot of comfort when it comes to going out there and executing at a high level for Carson. And I think for Bobo too, I think this year or heading into next year, you're going to see his comfort with Carson. I've now had a year of working with him. What does he do well? How can I maybe tweak the offense that best suits number 15?
It's going to be fun to watch, man. I'm excited because, like I said, I'm assuming the defense will still be in good shape. The portal, though, making a couple of, takes from Georgia at this point in time. I know the portal's even moving as we're talking, but Jamon Dumas-Johnson jumping in the portal, I think, surprised a lot of Georgia fans. What are your overall feel as it pertains to the portal and Georgia? Because on one hand, I'm like, okay, well, there's a ton of 5-stars there, and 5-stars are wanting to play, obviously, and it's hard to get on the field at Georgia. On the other hand, you're like, well, it's never good to see guys leaving an organization. Where do you fall in that whole situation?
Well, a lot of the guys that left, most of them had to climb the depth chart. You talk about Dumas-Johnson there. I mean, he was a guy that he kind of saw the writing on the wall, especially like with the way CJ was playing at linebacker and some of the young linebackers there, that he wasn't going to be the guy. And when you are talented and you are good enough to go out there and play in the SEC, like, you don't want to ride the bench. I get it. So, like, when it comes to, like, is this hurting Georgia's top line of the starters? No. But this is the issue, and Nick Saban's talked about this, Kirby's talked about this, other top coaches have talked about this. It's not the starters that we're concerned about. It's when we do get to the second guys of guys that aren't experienced. And I'll bring up CJ again, CJ Allen for Georgia, the linebacker, number 33. Had some great games for Georgia, but was inexperienced. He's a true freshman. And in some big-time games, he made some fresh mistakes. Like, does Kirby now look at this as like, oh, my God, this is a great learning moment for him going forward? Yes. But also, if you had a linebacker that was maybe a little bit more seasoned, a sophomore or junior that's been in the system, would he have made the same mistakes that CJ made? Probably not. Maybe that's a difference in winning the game versus Alabama. It's like, that's the difference. It's you don't have the experience at that number 2 or number 3 spot like you used to, which is going to hurt these top teams. But I think we can all agree, like, it's making college football better. Like, when teams can plug, steal a 5-star guy that's a backup and put him on their team as a starter, that makes your team better. That makes college football better. So it sucks for Georgia, but hell, they got plenty of 4- and 5-star guys coming in that I don't think it's going to, keep Kirby up too much at night.
Yeah, I think he's probably sleeping just fine as we head into signing day. We're recording this before National Signing Day, but the time of us, recording this, still the number 1 class in the entire country. So I think there's probably a little bit of a reload happening in Athens. Last thought on Georgia here, I want to get your thoughts on, Aaron. Big bowl game. Big bowl game. I don't want to speak too specifically because I'm sure opt-outs will happen as soon as we finish recording this. But Georgia, we were both in Atlanta. We saw that Bulldog team play Alabama and felt like, okay, this might be the national title game going on right now. Like, Georgia probably, if we're just being real, a top 4 team in the country. How much of a statement game is this against Florida State in your mind?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that go into this. I mean, all bowl games are kind of like who actually cares to be there, like who actually is motivated to play, who's not, ticked off that they got slighted. Like, everyone's talking about this game as being the 2 teams that are both upset that they didn't make the playoffs. I think Florida State obviously has a better reason to be upset than Georgia does. Georgia had an opportunity, win, you're in, lose, kind of the chips fell where they fell. Florida State 13-0. I'm still in the camp of they deserve to be one of those Final Four teams. So you get the frustration from their side. But, Florida State has a lot more, as of right now, a lot more opt-outs. Georgia obviously has the adrenaline shot into him that Carson Beck's back, like we talked about, like that gets a team motivated. I think you will hear a couple more guys the next couple of days that are coming back next season that will get Georgia and Georgia fans even more excited about this game. And then talking with some of the players, there's a lot of discussion about, the loss to Texas in the Sugar Bowl a few years ago. And most of the guys didn't play in the game, but they had teammates that played in the game. And they've talked to those teammates, and obviously Kirby has talked to those guys about that game of, you don't want to be the team that some other team says we're back because we beat Georgia. And I do think Florida State is legitimately back, and Norvell's doing a great job. But still, if they beat Georgia, they're going to say, oh, we truly are back, and we should be the favorites to win the ACC because we beat the big bad Georgia Bulldogs, just like Texas said when we thought they were back a few years ago. It's like that is kind of running through their veins a little bit as well. So I do think you'll get a motivated Georgia team. Flip it over to FSU, like, you just don't know. I mean, they like I said, they got a lot of guys in the portal, not the portal, but a lot of guys that opted out for the NFL draft. You're on your backup quarterback. I like Mike Norvell. I'm sure he'll find a way to motivate those guys. but I think Georgia's just a better team right now.
It's going to be fun to watch. I'm glad that we got those two in a bowl game because obviously Florida State feels like they should have been in the playoff, and I think a lot of people feel like Georgia very easily. If you put them in that 4, give them a 2-game playoff, I don't think anybody really wants to see Georgia in that kind of scenario. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.